This is On Assignment.
Now, a behind-the-scenes look.
Hi, I'm Imran Siddiqui here with Alex Villarreal, and we're taking you on assignment.
Chinese dissident Chen Guangcheng is now in the United States. We'll talk with the VOA reporter who was in close contact with him.
It's not your daddy's tractor, how GPS is helping farmers.
Children smoking in Indonesia. How bad is it? We'll find out more from Jakarta.
And teaching English on the air for over a half-century, it's some of VOA's most popular programming.
These are the stories behind the stories, so join us as we go on assignment. After years of detention, blind Chinese activist Chen Guangcheng escaped from house arrest. The U.S. and China fought over Chen's fate for a month before he and his family were allowed to come to the United States.
But one of the few journalists in contact with Chen during the ordeal was VOA Mandarin service reporter Ye Bing. And Alex talked with Ye Bing at the U.S. State Department.
Ye Bing tells us Chen's brother has fled his village in China and his nephew is now facing a charge of attempted murder. Chen is now in the United States, but what about his family that's still in China? They faced a lot of threats after he escaped. Are there still safety concerns for them?
Yes, even his brother, Chen Guangfu, whose son was charged with the murder, charged to have slashed at some officials who broke into his home on the night when the local authorities found that Chen escaped from the village, from his heavily guarded home.
So a lot of the media reports have said, there was this month-long dispute, this back and forth between China and the U.S. over Chen's fate, and a lot of the media reports now say it's over, that Chen's arrival in the U.S. has ended this back and forth, this battle. But with these lingering problems, would you say that that's an accurate characterization?
The safety is probably guaranteed here in the United States for Chen and his family, but concerned about his relatives back in China, in that village where Chen escaped one day in April, is still in much concern.
I'm now very worried about him because nobody can see him. He must be injured very badly then. I'm worried about his well-being. He must have been beaten up or tortured inside.
You were in very close contact with him throughout this whole process, throughout the diplomatic back and forth. What were your conversations with him?
He always told me about his concern about his relatives. He was ill-treated for so long, including his family, even his 78-year-old mother, who was under watch all the time before he escaped. Even when she wanted to do some shopping at the free market inside the village or outside the village, she was followed.
我为了不让他们看到我们家呢，把这个墙头上用这个玉米秸放得很高，但是他们还是到了邻居家放梯子朝我们家看。
And going back to the history of his case, why was he jailed initially?
The violence that occurred during the enforcement of the China's one-child policy per family. Some of the women reported that they were forced for abortion. They came to Mr. Chen, who is a self-taught lawyer, to help them fight for their rights.
It was interesting, actually, the way that you found out about Chen's escape. Can you talk about that?
We heard that something very serious happened in the village, in Chen's home and his brother's home. I called the person who is always active in Mr. Chen's case. I just found something very strange. You know, the person who is a female English teacher in Nanjing, she refused to take any interview, which is really abnormal. When I called back, talking about the situation in the village, and she found there was some paramilitary police in that village searching in Chen Guangcheng's home and his brother's home. She said it's about time to take it really seriously, because we're only ordered about by the top leadership. She said it's time to let us know that Chen Guangcheng escaped. She raised her voice, telling me Chen Guangcheng has escaped from that area.
And you said that Voice of America was one of the first media organizations to find out.
After she was released from the police, she told me that she only told CNN and the VOA about his escape. Yeah, according to the phone call conversations I had with him when he was in the hospital in Beijing, he told me that he listened to VOA several years ago before he was sentenced to jail. He just found it very important to get information, to get the uncut news from us. He said when he was in the darkness back in the village, he felt encouraged, and he felt there was still hope because so many people are concerned about him and his cause.
Chen now plans to study law at New York University, and we know that Yebing will be continuing to follow this story for us.
It's time for a break. When we come back, we'll look at how modern technology is making farming much more efficient. You're watching On Assignment.
This agency supports the country's election commission as
great criticism. Anti-gay measures have been
coming in first thing in the morning. I get down to my desk, get into my computer and just check all the stories we have.
I will come to work in the morning and of course hit the ground running.
Yes, sad story.
That part of the morning is really crazy for me, but that's how it is. I've gotten used to it.
Hey, spares no details about how I'm so self-conscious.
When we come in, we want to make sure the table looks shiny.
Whoa, somebody was having a party on this table.
Dimi and I, we have a chemistry and we work together very well.
Vincent is just an easygoing guy, and sometimes I like to kind of pull his coattails a little bit and just try to shake him up.
Hello, I'm Vincent McCory.
And I'm Dimiake Mokaliele. This is In Focus.
Every time I get on the set, when I hear that you're on, hard as it might be to believe, I am a nervous wreck inside, because I always feel it's just a question of the prompter stopping and me not finding my words on the page and what will happen.
The world's most dangerous conflict. VOA's Chris Simpkins has. I think the best part is just knowing that you have an audience out there that is expecting you to tell them these stories, being able to relate to them these stories in a way that makes them feel informed. Kumaraswamy's legal action against rebel leaders.
Demi and Vincent enjoy each other. It's a very warm friendship.
They're joking. They have this great rapport. This is In Focus. This is In Focus.
He's half the face, I am half the face of the show.
The two of us together make it feel like the show is whole.
Farmers in the U.S. are now working long days, and some of them are going high-tech, using satellite-based GPS navigation systems on their equipment. VOA's Steve Baragona is here to tell us more about this. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. This is really interesting. It's like Farming by robots.
Yeah, it's basically the farmer is sitting in the cab, and a lot of the time the steering is being done by a computer that's getting signals from satellites. It's basically the same system that you might use to find your way to a party or to a restaurant that you don't know what the location is. And it's cool, but it's not just, they're not doing it just because it's cool. They're doing it because they can put the seed and the fertilizer in basically the exact same spot, which means you use less fertilizer, and it means that that fertilizer is not getting out where you don't want it. And fertilizer in the wrong place is pollution. It's a major cause of pollution in waterways around the world, really.
Oh, fantastic. Let's take a look at the package. Let's roll it.
On a weedy patch of land an hour and a half from Washington, D.C., farmer Brad Eustace is tilling razor-straight lines with a GPS-guided tractor. With the computer in control, he barely has to steer.
You can do a straight line a whole lot easier.
The GPS computer receives signals from Earth-orbiting satellites to keep track of where his tractor is and where it has gone. Hoses deliver precise amounts of fertilizer right into the grooves that the tiller cuts. And when farmer Jimmy Messick comes back days or even weeks later with a GPS-guided corn planter,
the seed goes right on top of this tilled row. The corn planter will come back and it'll be putting the seeds exactly on top of these tilled strips that the machine has previously had put the fertilizer in.
Placing seed and fertilizer together with centimeter precision means fewer loads of fertilizer go on the fields.
You're able to use less, of course, you're saving the money, and you get the same performance out of the crop.
Messick says he's cut amounts of one fertilizer ingredient in half. On a 600-hectare farm, that saves him tens of thousands of dollars. And that's not all he's saving. Nutrients from farm fertilizers are a leading cause of water pollution, says Virginia Tech farming expert Tim Mize.
So if we get better at applying them only what's needed, where they're needed, then that's less nutrients that can move off and get into water systems or watersheds.
Jimmy Messick also uses GPS when he sprays weed killer. Before, he says, it was easier to miss spots or overlap.
You weren't sure what had been done and what hadn't been done. With this system, you can come back next week, next month, and you know what you sprayed and what you didn't spray.
GPS technology is guiding large-scale farm equipment across the country. And some harvesters also monitor how much crop is produced in each part of the field.
When you get an idea of where the productive areas of the field are, where the less productive areas, and then you fertilize accordingly.
With the price of fertilizers and fuel going up, along with the global demand for food, Mize says the name of the game today is getting the most crop with the least resources.
Anytime that you can reduce inputs and increase your bottom line, I mean, that's technology that everybody wants.
It's hands-free technology that's saving money and saving the environment. Steve Baragona, VOA News, Midland, Virginia.
So Steve, GPS is helping the farmers, I understand that, but there are other simpler, low-tech ways where they can do the same thing.
Yeah, you don't need a big fancy tractor to do these same kinds of ideas. Again, the same idea is to get the seed and the fertilizer in the same place so that you're saving money and you're saving fertilizer. There are some researchers at an organization called ICRISAT that have taught farmers to take a bottle cap, and rather than basically taking your bag of fertilizer and just spreading it willy-nilly across your field, you take the bottle cap and you just scoop it out and you put a little bit of fertilizer next to each of your plants. That way the plant gets what it needs, but you're not wasting fertilizer. And for a farmer who's subsisting on a hectare, a half hectare of land, that fertilizer is costing them a lot of money. And if they can save that money while still getting the benefits of the fertilizer, that's a big help to them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Steve. Thanks. Time for another break. Coming up on the other side, how cigarette smoking has become a problem in Indonesia, but for children. You're watching On Assignment.
Border Crossings is on the air.
From VOA Music Mix.
When I come in the morning, I'll go to my computer and I'll check our email to see what requests have come in over the night. This is how we start the show. This one is from Rwanda. His request is for If I Had You by Adam Lambert.
I'm looking up Adam Lambert News. Adam Lambert by request for Kumator Abo, who is joining us in Rwanda.
This will be cut 12 in CD1.
Cut 12.
My role is director of Border Crossing, so I make sure everything flows in the studio as the show is happening live.
We might have to add a Beatles tune at the end. We're just a little bit short.
Okay, perfect.
I don't even know what's on the show until Larry brings the bucket, like tomorrow's. He'll bring today's and place it in front of me. It's totally an unscripted show.
This is Border Crossings. I'm in the process of getting the songs ready that I'm going to be playing on today's show. You've held your breath, and now you can exhale. It is a party town, and if you've ever been to Party Town, I'm Larry London on Border Crossings.
Good morning, Border Crossings. What is your name, sir?
I take phone requests. I go to the studio every day.
Wolfer?
I get calls from everywhere, from China, just, you know, all over.
Lee's great to work with. He's got experience in broadcasting as a DJ, used to host his own radio show.
I've put together some language service IDs where I've used the resources of VOA to go around to the different language services, and they make great segues between songs.
Слушайте емісію Border Crossings in London, and Border Crossings will return tomorrow right here on the Voice of America. Have a great day, and I'll see you in 23 hours.
Indonesia is one of the world's last hubs of unrestricted cigarette use, where 1 out of 5 people smoke. Even children are picking up the habit and getting hooked.
And a class action lawsuit is brewing against the government and tobacco companies for failing to protect kids from cigarettes. On Assignment's Doug Bernard got the story from reporter Kate Lam in Jakarta. Let's take a look.
Without any government restrictions, cigarette advertisements are plastered throughout downtown Jakarta. Some are designed to appeal to younger consumers who can also legally purchase cigarettes. Roadside stalls, like this one opposite a local high school, sell cigarettes for about $1. Stallholder Ibu Sunia admits that while it's not morally right, she still sells to teenagers.
It's forbidden to sell cigarettes to children, but I give it to them if they insist, because they want it.
Kate Lam, if I were walking down the street of Jakarta and I saw a 5-year-old boy or girl light up a cigarette, how shocked would I be?
To be honest, it's not that common that you see children that young smoking in the street, but you'll quite often see very, very young teenagers. You will definitely see a lot of people smoking. It's quite a common scene to see like old men sitting around playing chess, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. The kids are running around.
Of course, there's a big difference, though, between seeing older people enjoying a cigarette or a smoke while they're engaged in pastimes and seeing young people, I mean pre-teens, smoking. Why is it so prevalent or even accepted in Indonesia?
Well, I think it's very, very accessible. I mean, you can buy cigarettes, you can buy one cigarette for about 10 cents at the roadside street stall. There's no minimum age for smoking. So if you're 10 or 5, you could go to the street stall and buy a cigarette or a packet of cigarettes. You can smoke everywhere. You can smoke at restaurants, at bars, in the mall, at the hairdresser, in the bus.
So if the taboo against smoking isn't as strong in Indonesia as it is in some places, is the government or the tobacco companies doing anything to say, well, wait a minute now, maybe we need to actually slow some of these smoking rates?
It's a problem because the government makes a lot of money off tobacco excise, like $7 billion a year. It's a huge industry. It employs a lot of people. So it's political as well as profitable. 8-year-old Aldi Ilham from Sukabumi, West Java, first started smoking when he was 4 years old. Instead of going to school, he would park cars to earn change for cigarettes, and at the height of his addiction, he was smoking up to 2 packets a day. His is one of 8 cases the Child Protection Commission, led by Aris Merdeka Sirait, is citing in a lawsuit against the government and tobacco companies later this month.
Have you ever encountered a young person in Indonesia who's showing signs of maybe a smoker's hack or something like that? And if so, I mean, how does that affect you? That's got to be profoundly disturbing.
To be honest, I've not had experience of that, but I guess so. I went when I was making this story. I went to the Child Protection Commission, and they were actually keeping Ilham, who's the 8-year-old boy in my story. He was undergoing 1 month of therapy with them, and it was the last day, and there was a press conference, and there was reporters around, and Ilham hadn't smoked for a month. And he saw a reporter had a packet of cigarettes in his pocket, and he went completely nuts. He threw a huge tantrum, was like lying on the floor, kicking and screaming, banging this glass door. You know, it was really, to see this 8-year-old in the grips of a nicotine addiction was very scary, and, you know, really brought home how important it is to stop it, or how easily a child could become addicted.
No matter how old you are, it is very difficult to quit, I guess. Kate Lamb, thank you very much for your reporting from Jakarta.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
One of VOA's longest-running, most popular program services is Special English. What makes Special English special? Well, it's news and information designed specifically for English learners.
And Special English has been on the air for decades, attracting viewers, listeners, and readers from all over the world. And my colleague here, Alex, she spoke about the program with reporter June Sims. Let's take a look.
It was first started in 1959 as a way to communicate in a simple manner so that people were able to understand, so that non-native English speakers are able to understand. And our announcers speak a little slower.
Here is the news in Special English. I'm Steve Ember in Washington.
They use
Syria's
a more limited vocabulary, and they use shorter sentences to communicate ideas.
What makes Special English different from other methods of English teaching?
Well, we try to focus in on the most commonly used English words.
They have demanded an apology for the strike.
So we don't use words that are too complex.
His lawyers said
we don't use multisyllabic words. Again, we try to keep it simple, and we do actually have a Bible of sorts called a word book, which kind of guides us along in that process.
Now, you said that Special English was started decades ago. Could you give us a rough outline of what the history has been?
Well, the first Special English broadcast aired in 1959.
Paul Parks just sat down in front of the microphone and told the world, for the first time, here is the news in Special English.
But when it first started, it was all radio.
in VOA Special English.
And we have just evolved into so much more since then. Now we're all over the web. Listeners can listen to them as they read along with the text, which is very helpful for people who are trying to learn English.
Death Valley is a land of beautiful yet dangerous extremes.
They can also download podcasts so that they are able to replay them over and over again.
We are all here out of a sense of great frustration.
And we're also on Facebook and YouTube. We have reports that are done live.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report.
With captions that scroll across the screen as the person is speaking. Again, all of this helps people learn English.
What kind of responses have you gotten? I know I've helped with the TV side of things, and we get these comments, and it seems like this is really helping people.
Our listeners love Special English. They love Special English because, again, it's designed to provide news and information. So in the process of them getting this news and information, because it's presented in such a way that is simple and easy to understand, they are also able to improve their English skills in the process.
Steve Ember reporting.
2012 just might be the year of women's rights in France. Newly elected President François Hollande has ushered in the country's first gender-balanced cabinet, and his partner is the country's first unmarried First Lady.
The government also has scrapped Mademoiselle or Miss from official documents in favor of Madame for all women. But are these changes merely symbolic? Lisa Bryant has more in this week's full feature story.
The easy part of Olivia Catan's day ends at lunchtime when she leaves her work as a preschool assistant and starts her other job as a journalist and founder of the feminist organization Paroles de Femmes, or Words of Women. Catan has advised France's new president, François Hollande, on women's issues, and Mr. Hollande's cabinet includes an equal number of male and female ministers. It also includes a new Ministry of Women's Rights, headed by 34-year-old Najat Vallaud-Belkacem. Catan says those are promising first steps.
It's a fantastic gesture from Mr. Hollande. It's like a page has been turned. It's the first parity government in France. He's really turned a page in terms of French feminism.
France also has a new unmarried first partner, journalist Valérie Trierweiler, who accompanied Mr. Hollande on his first official visit to the United States.
It shows that you don't have to get married to live with someone. We have the right to choose the kind of lives we want.
Women's issues have been in the spotlight in France for other reasons, notably for the sex scandal allegations dogging former International Monetary Fund chief and French politician Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Economics and minority rights professor Anne Boring says the Strauss-Kahn scandal has shaken the society.
That now women are more willing to say what has happened to them or to denounce violence against women.
On the streets of Paris, the French appear to be pleased with women's new assertion in political life. Among them, 40-year-old businessman Jean-Michel Bonbois.
It's good not to differentiate between women and men. What counts is their competency.
Theater director Nadia von der Heyden also praises recent changes, including the elimination of the term mademoiselle or miss from French government documents.
Things are beginning to reflect just a tiny bit the reality in French society, which wasn't the case before.
But Professor Boring says women must still fight to get ahead.
France is a country where women are still discriminated on the workplace, and salaries of women at the same stage of qualification are much lower than the salaries of men.
Rights activists like Olivia Catan say they will be watching closely to make sure France's new government makes good on its promises of promoting women's equality. Lisa Bryant for VOA News, Paris.
And that does it for our show today. Imran and I will be back next week when we'll show you how young Muslims and Christians in Nigeria are being brought together to better understand each other's faith.
And you can find all of our episodes at the Programs tab at voanews.com. And you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. And from all of us at On Assignment, thank you so much for watching us. See you next time.